Good evening. Good evening. Jessica Carter, the Peaceful Billionaire here. Mission to Billions vlog, day 25. Holy cow. I'm super excited. I'm super excited that it's day 25 and it's been almost a month. It's really got me thinking about how amazing it's going to be to look back on these videos 3 months from now, 6 months from now, a year from now. That is one of the things that excites me the most, is anytime I sit and look back to where I was and what I was doing a year ago, right? What's happened over the past year. When I sit and I reflect and I just take a moment to look back on that, I'm always in awe, right? I'm always in awe of how far I've come in such a short period of time. So I think it's important to say that and to share that, because that's one of the things that oftentimes keeps people from starting, is that you think it's going to take too long, right? That's just one of those, it's going to be too hard, it's going to take too long. The truth is, if that's what you believe, if you believe that it's going to be too hard, if you believe it's going to take too long, then it will be. Then it will be. And and oftentimes, unfortunately, that will keep you from starting altogether. And oh my gosh, my nose is itching tonight. I sneezed right before I hit record, and now my nose is itching. I don't know what is going on. I apologize. Maybe, I don't know. It's springtime in New York, so I don't know if it's something in the air, or I also had a late night snack, so it might have been something from that tickled my nose. But anyways, so it's just like that's one of the things that excites me the most, is when I reflect back on where I was a year ago. So again, so much can change, so much can happen in a year, in 3 months, in 6 months, and that's what excites me, right? That's what excites me. That's what keeps me going. When I pause and I look back at where I was a year ago and where I am now, and I'm like, holy crap, okay, right? And then I also pause and I think of, well, what I can't wait for is, like, I can't wait for this time next year, right? To look back on this moment this time next year. And right now, I mean, even to look back on this moment 6 months from now, at the end of this year, that excites me, right? That excites me. So anyways, I share that because also, when I reflect back on how far I've come since, like in the past 4 years, it's not even 5 years since I've been on this consistent path of growth and investing in myself. I mean, it is mind-boggling, literally mind-boggling how far I've come, who I've become. And then also, but then I also had, it's also very humbling. It's also very humbling at the same time, because I'm so proud of who I've become. And at the same time, I realize that I'm so humbled at how much there still is to learn. How much there still is to learn, both and what is required, both internally and externally, right? Internally, there is just this like I had such ups and downs over the past month, and I know that sometimes when those waves are really prevalent, because that's not normal for me. So I know sometimes when those waves are really prevalent, that there's about to be a quantum shift, and that there's about to be a quantum leap, and it has pushed me and required me to really step up my game and show up in a completely different way, for myself in my life, but especially in my business, right? I mean, I have incredible clients, and they're amazing, and the business is amazing. But the growth, when you're in a period of growing and scaling, what's then required from myself, from a leadership perspective, is extremely different when you're really starting to go to that next level, where you're bringing on more team members, where hey, you find out a week ago, you need at least one salesperson. And so I've had a lot of conversations this past week, since I found that out. And I mean, there's just so much to learn. And that might seem, I don't know, that might seem naive, right? But I think, it's just, you don't know what you don't know, right? You don't know what you don't know. Everyone's background is different. Your background is different than mine. Your zone of genius, your expertise is different than mine. My background happens to be in Western medicine, right? Sometimes I'm like, perhaps I should have gone to school for business. But what's very interesting is when I went to grad school to become a physician assistant, I specifically chose to become a PA and not a doctor, because at the time, I at least had the awareness that the doctors that I knew who did really well were in business for themselves, right? They were in private practices. And at the time, I had no desire whatsoever to have a business. Now, granted, I was young, but I mean, I literally had no desire, and I didn't foresee myself at that time ever having that desire. And then it became a burning desire. Then it became a burning desire for several years to have my own business and to become an entrepreneur. And during that time, there was a long time that I had no clue what that was going to be, right? I'm like, I want to have a business, but what would I do, and what would I be good at, and all of these things. And that's been part of the growth journey. So like I said, it might seem a little naive, right? But I've done really, really well in my business, and I just hadn't started to that big jump to scale. And this year I brought into my sphere the people who can get me from where I am to where I want to go faster, right? And that's what coaches and mentors are for, right? They are there to bridge that gap and to get you from point A to point B, from where you are to where you want to go faster. And it's insane, right? It's insane. It was a huge, leap of like, okay, this is investing over 6 figures and 3 private mentors, and then also saying yes to a high level, like intimate group business coaching to scale my business and get the systems in place and all these things. And so that's where this requirement for adding more team members now, and in particular, a salesperson or sales team. So I've started to have a lot of conversations and do a lot of research, because I didn't want to make I didn't want to make any brash decisions, and one of my mentors is sales, right? She's a sales mentor. And so I was like, okay, I'm not making any decisions until I talk to her. But last week, when I found out, because I had just talked to her the day before, and I knew I wasn't going to get to talk to her to this week. My sales mentor and I have a mutual friend, so I had reached out and connected with her, and she does some sales team stuff as well. So she shared with me her wisdom, but she said, definitely talk to Jennifer. And I said, okay, I plan to. I just, wanted to connect with you and pick your brain as well. And then I was referred to another company, and I've had a couple of meetings with people from their team, and I really, really like what they do. And now it's kind of navigating some different aspects of the decision. So I really like what they do, and I can see the value, and I can see where it would tremendously benefit both me and my business. But also, then I met with my sales mentor today, and we were working on some of my stuff, but also I was like, okay, you do this. You've never really shared much about that, but now I need to know, like, what is it that you do with sales stuff? And so what she does is quite different than what this similar but different, but actually quite different than what this other company does. So the other company literally staffs you with 1 to 2 people at most at a time, and they do give you support in creating your SOPs and that side as the business owner, and support as the business owner. They provide you with qualified people that they feel like, that they vet, that they feel like are going to be, a good match. And then they also provide a lot of support for that team member. And they do, and there's a lot of like one-on-one components of it for both like myself and then and then my salesperson, which I really, really like. And then meeting, I just hit the table with the camera. And then in chatting with my mentor, the service that she provides is quite different, where it's a little bit more niche and specific for events, for live virtual events. And she brings on 1 to 3 people, and they literally go all in for your event. And there's some stuff that happens on the front end, and there's some really awesome things that happen like during the event and after the event and the follow-up and things like that. And then also going through your offer and optimizing that. So there was a lot of different things in there that were also extremely valuable. And so I have another meeting with her. She answered some of my questions. We were working on other things primarily this evening, but she gave me answered some of my questions to kind of put my mind at ease, because part of it was like, how quickly do I need to make this decision was one of my prioritizing thoughts, is again, how quickly do I need to make this decision. And so she really put my mind at ease, because I was just asking a lot of timeline questions, both to the other company and to her. And after getting the information that I did, and I am still going to meet with her again next week, but and I'll talk to her about how to navigate from here. But based on what I've learned, and I'm so grateful, right? I'm so grateful for these. Most people would perhaps perceive this as a challenge or an obstacle, but it's simply an opportunity for growth. And so I love learning new things. And sometimes they're things that I don't necessarily enjoy or think that I'm going to be good at, but then usually what happens is once I get into them, I find out that I actually do really really enjoy it. So but anyways, based on what I know now, after having all these meetings and conversations, I feel like the best next step is probably what my sales mentor has to offer, what she can bring to the table for my event. But I think I'll talk it through with her, but I think there's also a lot of room for pretty early on, possibly, right after this first event, for me to start working with the other company because her team is like, they're literally just like contracted for your event, right? So they don't work for you, and they're not doing stuff for you the whole month or on an ongoing basis. It's when you have your events. So which is great, right? Which is great. But I also have, been learning. So there's, differences between launch models and evergreen. And obviously, there's benefits to both, but there's also benefits to having both. And so that's what I'll, kind of pick her brain on next week, is at what point is it going to be most beneficial to, in addition to like using you for my events, to having someone who is on my team. I mean, ultimately, I could build my own team who ends up getting trained to do what her team does, right? And on the long term, that would save me money, right? Because when you use one of those services, you pay a little bit more, right? But they do a lot for you, versus if you have your own team. Obviously that requires a bit more of my bandwidth, in particular in the beginning. And so when I look at everything that I have on my plate, things that require less of my bandwidth on the front end at this moment is generally, generally what is going to be the better decision in this moment. And then I can re-navigate, and then I can add that to my plate where I can have a bit more time and energy to focus and dedicate to getting the right person. And they do help them get up to speed a lot, but I still have to obviously be involved in that process to some extent, and really have a vision and a plan for what that's going to look like long term. And I think that using my sales mentor's service, at least initially, I'm going to learn so much of what it is that I am really going to need, because it's like anything else. Riding a bike is the best example that I can think of, right? You can watch tutorials, somebody can explain to you how to do it, you can read the books, you can watch the videos, but until you're actually on the bike, there's a lot that you don't know until you actually have that experience and you go through that process, and you see what goes on, and you feel it, and you experience it, right? And so you just gain so much more knowledge from having actually gotten on the bike and taken the bike for a ride, than you gain so much, right? You learn so much by that process, by that experience, versus more than you could ever read just in a book or watching videos about it, right? So you have to do the thing. And so I think that's that's really, really going to help. And I think specifically that niche difference of her team specifically, like they're trained to do live events. And I'm like, that's the thing, right? Because with the other company, the person may or may not, I mean, I can certainly look for someone who has that experience, but one person is not going to be able to pull off what my sales mentor's team does. And she basically said it would be 1 to 3 people based on the size of your event and your needs. But I also like that flexibility versus just having one person, because that was another one of my concerns is what if I need more than one person and I don't know. So that was the other thing from a timeline perspective, the ramp up time with the other company and getting someone on specifically like on my team that's going to be like a longevity type situation. That ramp up time was also more, whereas my sales mentor, what she does, because that's specifically what she has, teams of people that do, that ramp up time was a bit less. It was also more cost effective in some ways, in the short term at least. So anyways, I don't want to ramble too long. It's late. I'm going to kick back and relax for a few, get ready for bed. Perhaps I should get ready for bed first, meaning wash my face, brush my teeth, get my jammies on before I go to just kick back and relax for a few before I go to bed. But anyways, so that is today. That is day 25. Yes. So much is happening. It's so incredible. And yeah, I'm gonna say I'm stoked, but I'm also proud of myself, because there is so much right now that's just new, and so much that's required of me, and it would be easy to be overwhelmed. I can certainly attest to the fact that that an older prior version of myself would have been freaking out and stressed to the max, and I'm just like, yeah, I got this. I got this. And so if you have something that you're working on, you've got it too. You've got this. I'm here to to support you. I hope that it is my intention for these videos to inspire you, for you to gain some pearls of wisdom, for you to see how my brain works and see how I'm navigating things. And I mean, compared to the like just emotional like roller coaster and lows that I hit a couple weekends ago, ever since then though, I've been just which is more the norm for me. And and it feels really good. It's kind of one of those like Stella got her grooves back moments, which I'm grateful. Like I said, I know that emotional roller coaster, and sometimes that inner turmoil is just your nervous system calibrating and preparing for that quantum shift. And yeah, I'm so here for it. Okay, that's all. Good night, good evening, wherever you are in the world. Good morning if it's morning for you. Sending you much peace and prosperity, and I will see you tomorrow. Again, Jessica Carter, Mission to Billions blog, day 25. I'll see you tomorrow.